Oh my fucking God. I love you, Kevin. You make me so happy. You make everyone I know happy. And that's a lot of pressure, and I don't mean to give that to you. I don't mean it as pressure. I mean it as thank you. Sweet, sweet man. I fucking love you. Thanks for doing this.
It's the Call Kevin podcast. It's the podcast of your dreams. It's the Call Kevin podcast. Call and ask him things. Podcast Kevin with Call Kevin.
Oh, hi there. Welcome to episode number 3 of the Call Kevin podcast. Seems like you guys are really enjoying the show so far. I'm getting lots of great feedback, and that makes me very happy. I'm really enjoying doing the show. I have high hopes for a bright Call Kevin future. If you are interested, I'm back out on the road this coming week. I have shows in Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Toledo. The following week after that, I'm in Albany, New York, Syracuse, and Hartford, Connecticut. All the details for those shows and many, many more. I'm doing like 70 cities in 2025. All of those details are on my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. And while you're there, there's a little button where you can record a message, whatever you want to say, ask a question, tell me a story, and it could get used on a future episode of Call Kevin. I'm getting so many messages, more than I could ever use, and I thank you so much. I'm having a great time listening to them, even if they don't make it all the way to the show. So what else do I want to say? I think that's it. Let's dive into our first message.
Hey, Kevin. Hope you're doing well, and I hope your kitty is on the mend. I'm so sorry to hear about your cat. I have 2 kitties as well, and one's, well, I won't get into it, but her stomach is finicky, so I totally get it. I hope your little fur baby is doing okay. Anyway, I had a question for you. I don't know if you mentioned this before in one of your TikToks or on social media somewhere, but I am curious to how you came out to yourself. Because I tend to find that usually gay women, such as myself, usually come out later in life, where I feel that gay men tend to come out earlier in life. And do you think it's like a confidence sort of thing, or do you think that women are socially conditioned to sort of not be in touch with their emotions and feelings that way? I don't know. I think it's a very interesting and in-depth conversation. There may be more to it, but I guess what I'm wondering is, how did you come out to yourself? Was there a sort of point where you're like, oh, I'm gay? Or did you always just know? Thanks.
Is that true that women come out later and men come out earlier? Is that really a thing? I've never thought about that before. This is just right off the top of my head. But if that is true, my first thought would be that in our world, it seems like women being gay is, this is kind of gross, but in like a patriarchal way, like straight guys aren't bothered by the thought of 2 women. So it's like a little easier on women maybe in some way, in a way that it's not for men. Like when I was growing up and coming of age, I did not feel like the world was accepting in any way. So it might put men in a different position where you just have to do it. I don't know. Is that true? And maybe if society is a little less like repulsed by 2 women, maybe it gives space to explore a little more. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe what I just said was bullshit, and it probably was. I didn't really come out until right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gay. No, I did it real slow. And if you are tuning in, you already know my story, that I grew up in a super fundamentalist church.
It was the 90s.
And it took me a long time to figure it out. Even when I was a teenager and I fully knew what my deepest fantasies and desires and hopes for, I knew what was going on in my head, and I still somehow managed to like wall it off inside of myself and stay in denial about it, like even within my own brain. Repression is a weird thing, you know? And so I did it very, very slowly, like a little toe in the water, very slowly. So I don't have a moment where it was like, aha. However, I know more than one person, both of these people are male also, that it was later in life and it just really never occurred to them. I know one person who was like 40 years old and had been married at one point, and then in his 40s, he was like, oh, I think I'm gay. I don't quite understand like what could go on in your thoughts for that long to really not know. But you know what? Everybody's different. Everybody's different. That's my answer. Who knows? The human creature is a being of mystery. All right.
You are listening to the Call Kevin podcast.
In my super fundamentalist church, when it was the 90s, learned that it was sinful to wear a crossbody purse.
Oh.
That would cause all the boys to stumble because they could see the outline of your boobs. At 35 years old, I'm finally starting to feel okay with wearing a crossbody purse.
Oh.
I like my boobs. Shamala hamala.
Shamala hamala to you. I was pretty self-absorbed in my youth group experience, and I'm allowed to be. I was, when I was 17, 18 years old, up until I was 20, 21, that was my whole world. And I was very confused. And I was in a lot of pain around the confusion. It was much later in life, and really hearing from you guys more recently, where I'm aware of how much harder it was for women in some of those circles, because the misogyny is just deep. And all of that stuff, I mean, the focus in youth groups about sexual purity is so over the top, and that it just sort of gets like thrown onto the responsibility of the girls to not tempt the boys. It's gross. I'm sorry that happened to you. And I am glad that you've embraced the crossbody purse. That's one I'd never heard of before. But we definitely, had all the stuff about making sure the shorts weren't too short and the shirt wasn't cut off or whatever. Embrace the purse.
Hi, Kevin. I just wanted to share that my almost 6-year-old autistic son, who is my favorite person on the planet, yesterday decided to play store, and he took the chocolate milk boxes and pudding out of the refrigerator, and he lined it all up on the table in the living room. And then he opened the pudding, and he got bowls, and he started putting the pudding into bowls. And then he went to each room in the house, which he put hotel numbers on the doors, so like hotel numbers, like they were hotel rooms, and put chocolate milk and bowls of pudding next to all of the beds. And I'm not really sure why he did this, but it really made our household joyful and made us laugh, and just reminded me and my husband, to put all the heavy stuff down for a minute and, have some pudding and share in the joy with our son. That's it. Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing.
Oh, that was delightful. Thanks for sharing that with us. It made me think about when I was a kid, I wanted to build a restaurant in my backyard. And I started collecting wood. Back in those days, there would just be like a lot nearby with crates, or, or people would just like dump a pile of wood or something. It was that kind of neighborhood. And little by little, I was gathering pieces of wood in my backyard. And when I had enough wood, I was going to get out a hammer and nail and assemble it all into a restaurant. I don't know why. I didn't get very far. I maybe only had like 4 or 5 pieces of wood. And then I lost interest, I think. Oh, and then for a while, I wanted to build a hang glider. I loved the idea of hang gliding. And, keep in mind, this is before the internet.
It was the 9.
So I would go to the library and get books about hang gliding, and decided I could build a hang glider. And my dad had some pipe in the garage, and I asked him if I could have a couple pieces of this like copper tubing pipe. And when I had enough, I was going to build the frame of my hang glider. And I remember when my dad caught on to what I was doing, he was like, "Would you fly with something that you built?" And I said, "Yes." Like, didn't even hesitate. I'm not sure if my dad was like trying to encourage me or discourage me in that moment. At any rate, I never built the restaurant, and I never built the hang glider either.
Hi, Kevin. It's Paula from Colorado again. This is a triple dip, which might sound out of context depending on the order that you're listening to these recordings. But I just want to say I watched the first episode. There was some confusion with that very rambly story that I told. I'll make this one quick. The person who stole the car did not put the bumper sticker or the seats on there.
Right.
Or in there, whatever. They found the car and saw that there were car seats in the car already and the bumper sticker, meaning that they stole a car that was clearly occupied by children.
Yes.
Meaning, okay, do you get that?
I got it.
I'm so sorry.
So in the last episode, yes, that person told us a story about a car getting stolen. And the way that she told it, people in the comments made me realize I just heard it wrong. I thought they were saying they stole the car and then when it was found, it had car seats in it and a bumper sticker that said, if I remember correctly, "Kids up in this bitch." And I was like, well, that's really, so it was like some like criminal mom out there stealing cars and running her kids around town in a stolen car. "Kids up in this bitch." That's what I thought the story was. Thank you for clarifying for us. I know we talked about this last week, but did I talk about my car getting stolen? I don't know if I did. I think the caller was asking about my car getting stolen. Maybe I said this already last week, but what a blessing. Oh, I did say this, yes, because I owed more on the car than it was worth. Total blessing in disguise, you guys. Get your car stolen.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Well, you asked on your podcast about how to. Oh, sorry, this is Simon from London.
Hello.
Love what you do.
Oh.
You asked about expanding your social circle. Well, this is a bit of advice that a friend of mine gave me, which I've managed to kind of shoehorn into a lot of situations. But essentially, put yourself about a bit, lower your standards, and have a drink. That's it.
Yeah.
Love you. Bye.
I said this to someone recently. I think this, on its face, sounds like bad advice, but I think it's actually good advice. And keep in mind, you guys, I don't know anything. I'm a comedian. Don't do anything that I say. But I think that a lot of times when people say their standards, they have really high standards, whether it's for like dating or a project you're wanting to do or some kind of career change. When a lot of people say their standards are really high, that is a protection mechanism to either keep yourself from getting your heart broken, to keep yourself from failing, to not have to face the fear of putting yourself out there. For so many people, and in different ways, that whole like high standards thing is keeping you back. You don't have high standards, you're scared. Because I remember for me, when I was younger, I definitely, as far as like people I would consider dating, I always thought, oh, my standards are too high. It's so hard for me to find someone because my standards are so high. And that's not what was going on. I was protecting myself. And so I think that was in response to someone last week talking about just how it's hard to find friends. Could it even apply there too? Like lower your expectations a little bit just put yourself out there and open yourself up a little more. Is it hard to make friends because you're a little closed off in some way? Maybe so.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
It's Robin calling from Southern Ohio. And I just wanted to thank you for your podcast, American Queer. I listened to that a few years ago when my son came out during his college years, and it was a very insightful podcast. It helped our relationship. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Also, I do have a question. I attended church also in the 90s. I'm 51 years old. So I had a Sunday school class that we had to go to. They called it the teen class. And we had to watch some kind of a video series, and it was all about satanic rock music. And we had to listen to the songs in the backtracking. And it would be songs like some AC/DC songs, like You Shook Me All Night Long. And I think it was Stairway to Heaven. And then the guy would like play it backwards on the videotape. And he said that it would say, I love you, my sweet Satan, or something like that. I just wondered if you ever experienced anything like that. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. And
Bye.
I'm glad that you enjoyed my show, American Queer. Some of you might not realize I've been doing lots of different podcast things. I was an early podcast adopter before, like way early. I started a podcast, I want to say in like 2008-ish. And I don't even think podcasts existed until like 2005. So my manager at the time was into podcasts, and she was like, you should try to this podcast thing. And I did like 50 episodes of a show called the Kevin James Thornton Podcast. No, Kevin, I think I was just going by Kevin J. Thornton back in those days. Side note, I wish I could cut the James. I wish it was just Kevin Thornton, but I'm too far in. I actually asked the people who I work with now if I could cut the James, and they were like, no, your special says Kevin James Thornton. The only reason I now go by that my full mouthful of a name is because that was my TikTok handle when my TikTok blew up. It was just my full name. And that's how people got to know me. So that's what it is now. But I feel like Kevin Thornton would just be a little quicker, a little more succinct. What are we talking about? Oh, yeah. So I have a couple podcasts out there now. One of them is what this caller was talking about, American Queer. It's more of a storytelling style show. I made it in 2018. And not a whole lot of people heard it. I put a lot of work into it. But now people are going back and discovering it. It's like 12 episodes. And it's the story of me growing up in church and figuring out myself. It's called American Queer. If that sounds like your jam, it's very personal. It's very storytelling-ish. I also have a podcast that I did last year called This Ends in Paris. And it's not for everyone. I understand why some people don't like it when they first listen to it. It started out, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was going to be like an on-the-road travel journal, like an audio travel journal last year when I was on tour. But during the course of the year, my partner and I decided to separate. And it starts sort of like seeping into the story. And we kind of found what the show is as it was happening. So the first few episodes are they're kind of about nothing. It's about, now we're in Cleveland and we're eating at this restaurant, and it's that sort of vibe. But then it starts to get a little deeper and more meaningful as it goes. The last 4 episodes of that show, I'm super proud of. I think they're really, really good. So if either of those sound like your jam, go listen to American Queer or This Ends in Paris. What was the other part of that question? Oh, yeah, two totally different things. The Satan stuff. Man, back in the day, we were so obsessed with devil worshippers. Why was that the thing we thought about? That was like the biggest deal in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, you might remember it as Satanic Panic. But it was in my church, too. Yeah. We were really aware of those devil worshippers. Anywhere there was an abandoned house, there were probably devil worshippers in there. There was a baseball park by my house, and we would say, don't go to the baseball park at night because devil worshippers. They hang out in the little league dugout. If you want to become a devil worshiper, go to the baseball park in Evansville, Indiana on Van Avenue at midnight. Go to the dugout and they'll meet you there. Yeah, I also remember the exact movie, the videotape you're talking about where they played music backwards. Because I remember, yes, it was Stairway to Heaven, and it said something about Sweet Satan. I remember that. So we saw that. How did all youth groups in the 90s... hold on.
It was the night.
Okay. How did all youth groups in that era do the same things? Because we didn't have the internet. How did all youth groups across America, and sometimes I hear from people in other countries, did the same skits, did the same like youth group events? How did that happen? That's a weird phenomenon. We had no way to communicate like that. Super weird.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
Hi, Kevin.
Oh, we did that one already. Hold on. Let's see. Here we go.
Hey, Kevin. My name is Jenny.
Hi,
I was
Jenny.
just listening to your
Hi,
podcast about
Jenny. I
making
love you.
friends as an adult. I've never had an issue doing so. I treat everybody as a friend until they show me that they're not. If I'm working with them, I try to find fun stuff that we have in common and then build on that. I go to the library and bookstores and run into people looking at the same things that I am and start talking to them about it. And I just continue to keep those connections until someone tells me they don't want to be my friend. Or until I find that there's like something very morally different about them in the sense of they are unaccepting or they have some kind of bias that I can't bypass. Otherwise, I just assume that everybody's my friend forever and ready to go out and have fun with them, go do stuff, go for a hike, go for a drink, go have coffee, gossip about my neighbors, gossip about myself with them, talk to people about health and wellness and dying and books and movies and my favorite TV shows and pets and just work on keeping connection.
Wow, you make it sound so easy. I guess for some people it probably is easy. I'm not one of those people. This person sounds super open. And maybe that's something, if you want friends, being open like that would be ideal. It's, a little different for everyone. I am super introverted. A lot of people are surprised by that. A lot of people I can tell, like if they see me at the grocery store, I think in some ways my Instagrams and TikToks through the pandemic, I was sort of whoever you needed me to be. Because for a lot of people who, really tuned into like the church stories or it was the 90s stuff, maybe assumed I was this super extroverted, bubbly sometimes is something people say in the comments. I'm not bubbly. I'm kind of surly. You might be surprised. Maybe if you're listening to this show, you're not. But I can tell sometimes when I see people at the grocery store, there's a moment where they're like, yes, it's you. And I'm like, oh, hi. Over by the grape nuts. Oh, God. I am pretty introverted. It does not come naturally for me when I'm in a social public setting. I know that's the case for a lot of people. But yeah, can you find it within yourself to be more open if you want friends? If you don't, just, continue being your closed off self. Hey, let's take this moment. Oh, you know what we should do in this moment is a dance break.
Dance break in your car, in your office, where you are. Dance break, move your booty, break it down like it's your duty. Dance break.
Chair dancing is hard. Okay. Let's take a moment to shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Strings for Hope. It's a cool little jewelry studio in Nashville, Tennessee. They used to be in the same building that my photography studio was in back in the day. That's how I know about them. This is right off their website. Established in 2010, Strings for Hope is a survivor-led organization that has dedicated the last decade to making a positive impact on the the local Nashville community. By upcycling secondhand musical strings, we create job opportunities for individuals overcoming substance use disorder, domestic violence, and human trafficking. At Strings for Hope, we believe that economic opportunity is key to disrupting cycles of abuse and exploitation. Whether survivors seek long-term employment with us or view it as a stepping stone toward their goals, we provide a trauma-informed workplace with ongoing training, assistance, and dignified wages. Our products embody the spirit of Nashville, kind, creative, and deeply musical. We take pride in contributing to our community and transforming the lives of survivors within our city. Your support is essential to the continuation of our mission. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for choosing to stand with us. Thank you for your ongoing support of Strings for Hope. You should go to stringsforhope.com. They have a little selection of jewelry made from guitar strings. It's got a cool story, it's for a good cause, and it's super cute. Go check it out. stringsforhope.com. Oh.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. Thank you.
Hi, Kevin. My name is Venla, and I'm calling from Finland. We actually met in Helsinki in 2023, and it was an absolute pleasure meeting you, and your show was absolutely hilarious. I wanted to talk to you about children and religion from the point of view of my own experiences. I've never really been affiliated with like a church or a youth group or anything, but in my teenage years, I just suddenly started believing in God, and I practiced my religion by myself. But the way that my faith was manifested was through like intense fear of going to hell. That was something that I thought about absolutely constantly, and it just terrified me and caused so much anxiety. And in my 20s, I was actually diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. So I've come to realize that during my teenage years, I was probably not religious. I was just probably mentally ill. But anyway, and these experiences have left in me like this really, really deep discomfort whenever I think about it. And I sort of have this like innate fear that those intense feelings of fear and dread of going to hell might suddenly reactivate and like ruin my life all over again. And that's why I really would like to know how you feel about introducing religion to children, because I know this might sound radical, but I feel like children should be actually protected from religion, or at least if they are introduced to religion, it should be done with like a deep sense of understanding for how children might come to fear these really big questions and like mysteries that even adults don't necessarily understand or are able to explain to them. So how do you feel? Because I know that you have also been traumatized by religion at a tender age. How do you feel? Do you think children should be like protected from religion, or is it okay to introduce it to them? And how should that be done in your view? Thanks for everything, and bye.
These are very Scandinavian ideas or Nordic ideas that America is not ready for. I will agree that the elements of total fear, putting the fear in a human about they're going to burn forever, that's pretty heavy. Or sexual shame sticks with you for a long time. Yeah, that stuff I think is not good. Regardless of how I feel about religions or beliefs in people, and I mean, God, so many of you guys tell me about your traumas, so I know that it's common. that religion can be hurtful. But regardless of how I believe or don't believe, especially the position I'm in, I try to take a step back and tell myself that for a lot of people, especially in America, there's this definite idea that faith is a total beautiful virtue. And I know there are lots of churches out there that don't do the fear and sexual shame thing. My parents go to, I think, a Methodist church. It's very like charity based. It gives them some sense of community. I have to tell myself, regardless of like my own experiences, my own bad experiences, that for some people it's important and it adds a sense of meaning to their life. And so, in that respect, I think that would probably be great for some children. Side note, I don't have children and I'm not going to have children. So I can't say too much about what other people should do with their children. But I do understand what this caller is saying. And it's very, it's not even European. It's like, which Finland is not Scandinavia. What is Finland? I had a show, like this caller said, in Helsinki. I was only there for like a day and a half. But in Europe, the hotels are really into breakfast. It's not like American breakfast hotel scenarios. You know, in America, the breakfast is awful. There's like one little counter with like a cereal dispenser and some like synthetic scrambled eggs and an apple. In Europe, it's like a dining room and it's a fully cooked, huge breakfast. And often it's included with the room. Or, you know, you paid a little bit extra, but I loved the breakfasts in Europe. My show in Helsinki, I woke up that morning and I went down to have what I knew would be a good breakfast. And it was like this beautiful modern dining room and there was a fireplace going. And they had this like super meditative music playing and everyone was like dressed really nice and like cashmere sweaters and this, you know, the overhead music was like, ah, and everyone's like sipping on tea. No one was really talking. Exactly what you would imagine Finland is like. That's what it is. They're wearing cashmere sweaters, sipping on tea, and they don't say anything.
Hi, Kevin. This is Jen. I'm calling in from Massachusetts, about 20 miles south of Boston. And I just have to say that when the pandemic started was when I downloaded TikTok. And like many people, it saved my sanity for a little while. And your channel always had me in stitches, and it was just so nostalgic and healing, because a lot of us growing up during those decades, now I'm coming to realize had so many shared experiences. And when I was that age, I didn't realize that, you know. So it's kind of like a full circle thing. And I just thank you. And I did send you in a little picture of my kitty cat. And I think this is a pretty cool thing that you started. It definitely feels a little more human to human interaction. Even if it's still digital, it's kind of taking it back to, you know, when email was the big digital way to communicate. So I guess my only question, you know, I was watching your video. I was peeking some really cool things around your home. So I was just wondering, you know, what's like your favorite piece that you have at home? Where did you find it? You know, something cool like that, just to get to know, you know, your style, and if it's something that brings you humor, or if it has sentimental value. Maybe that could even be a good subject that we all share an item from our house and send it in. It'd be cool to see what people hold close to their heart and would love to share. So thank you for doing this. Have a happy week. Take care.
Oh, I like that idea. They were referring to, if you don't know, I started doing this every Sunday night email. I've started calling it the Secret Sunday Message. There's nothing secret about it. But over 30,000 people have signed up for the Secret Sunday Message. Every Sunday, along with the release of a new podcast episode, I send a thoughtful little message to start your week. It is not spammy advertisement. It's a sincere little quick letter. But I've also occasionally been asking people to send me something each week, and I like this idea. I think for this week, for the Secret Sunday Message, I will make it to send me something, a picture of something in your house that brings you some happiness or something that's important to you around your house. You might know that I just got a brand new place. I'm in it right now. This is my upstairs office area, if you're watching this on YouTube. And I moved in here with nothing. I didn't have forks. I had nothing. I went through a big breakup a couple years ago, got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. I moved what little I had left into a storage space in Nashville. So I moved in here with literally no furniture, nothing. So I really started from scratch. And I started watching this guy on YouTube who was an interior designer, but he talked about putting things in your house that are important and of some kind of quality or value, like not filling your house with junk. And it shifted my idea of what I wanted to put in my space because he basically said, like, a lot of times people are drawn to like the photo shoot or, like a set that you might take fashion photos on. So a lot of people decorate their house with all these kind of cheap things. It's really just for like a quick visual wow. But when you're living in amongst the kind of meaningless cheap things, it doesn't feel great. And it really shifted what I started getting to put in my house. What's actually going on behind me in this room? This is the most decor in my whole house. I've been keeping it really simple. But I would say one of my favorite items is this tapestry that my mom gave me over the holidays. It's the very first thing that my mom and dad, who are still together, they bought when they had just started dating. And, it has kind of hippie vibes, I guess. But they bought it at what they called back in the day a head shop. They bought this tapestry. And when I was a teenager, I had it hanging up in my room. Eventually, I think my mom got it and put it up in the attic where it has stayed for many years. And she pulled it back down. I was like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yes." And it's hanging in my living room right now. It's really beautiful. It's in great condition. And I love it. It's been around my whole life. One last thing I will say about interior decorating. I did not realize, and if you've seen some pictures of my living room, I accidentally created, when you were maybe right out of high school and you had one friend who was maybe a couple years older than you who had their own apartment and it was super cool. And it was like, it's like a new experience going to your friend's really cool apartment and somehow they have kind of a nice couch, not like a Goodwill couch. And they have like plants and incense burning and they're always like playing cool music and they have everyone over and they make some pasta and everyone drinks a beer on the roof. You know what I'm talking about? That place. I accidentally created that place. Like the things I chose, I was picking out things that I liked. And once they were all assembled together, it's like, oh, I just created the cool friend's house. So, yeah, that's what I did. I created that for myself. Let's, what are we doing? Let's have another dance break.
Dance break in your car, in your office, where you are. Dance break, move your booty, break it down like it's your duty. Dance break. Dance break.
Okay. Where are we at in the world? Okay. Let's take This podcast is done with no edits. There's lots of mistakes in it. No one's helping me. It's just me sitting here in my house with this little device I bought, which is making podcasting much easier. But it results in moments just like this.
Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
I want to know if you have a specific memory from your childhood that you frequently think about and even maybe wish you could transport back to that like exact moment and exact time. For me, it was in like the mid 2000s. I was maybe 12 or 13. My family had taken a trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we were staying at a hotel right on the beach. And my dad and I had gone down to the water park that they had as a part of the hotel. And the song Free Falling by Tom Petty came on the speakers. And my dad and I both started belting out our own karaoke version of Free Falling as we're like there at this water park. And it's just such a vivid memory for me. And there's times I wish I could go back and be transported to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina when I was 12 or 13, singing Tom Petty with my dad.
Oh, that was lovely. And yeah, there's, that's even, it's not even quite nostalgia that we're talking about. I'm a super nostalgic person. I love, obviously, retro, throwback, fun memories. But even, yeah, this sort of thing where there's like a moment in your memory bank that is so good and you wish you could just like step back in time and live there one more time. I think I have a lot of those. What came to mind was in my hometown of Evansville, Indiana. Evansville's on the Ohio River. And even though people in Evansville will totally tell you that it's the fourth largest town in Indiana, Evansville is a small town. People in Evansville don't think it's a small town, but it is a small town. The downtown area is, it's one of those middle America cities. The downtown isn't much, and all the businesses there closed long ago, so it's a lot of empty buildings. And then right on the riverfront, they've made this kind of walkway area. It's very nice. There's like benches all along it. But back when I was in high school, it was a little more unfinished. And sometimes you could even get away with building a little fire on the riverfront. You could never do that today. But you could back then. And right across the Ohio River is Kentucky. And it's, in my young memory, the river was so big and it was like wide, and it's not really, it's actually super tiny. But right across the river and on the Kentucky side, there was this row of radio towers, and they had lights on them, like red and white lights, and they kind of blinked. But there were maybe like a dozen radio towers with all these blinking lights kind of in the distance, past the trees on the other side of the river. And we would sit there at night. I have one memory. Maybe 3 or 4 of us in high school had gone down to the river and were sitting there just sort of staring at the water and throwing rocks into the water. And someone said, those lights almost look like a city, like in the distance, like it looks like a big city over there. And we were all like, oh yeah, it does look like a big city. And we sat there and it became this really like inspired moment where we were all maybe 17 years old and we're looking across the water at these blinking radio tower lights. And we just start dreaming about the future. And everyone was talking about like their hopes for their life. And because we were looking at like, this imaginary distant city off in the distance there. We'll go there someday. What's over there? What's possible over there? So these like small town 17-year-olds on the waterfront looking at the radio tower lights and dreaming about the future. That is a really good memory for me. And if I could, I'd go back there and experience it one more time.
Hi, Kevin. My name is Teresa, and I'm one of your TikTok followers. I've been following you for probably a year and a half or so. Anyway, today is January 26th, 2025. My oldest daughter, Ashley Nicole Sidney, would have been 30 years old today. I say she would have been because she passed away a year and 11 days ago. So far, it's been okay. I thought that I would spend all day in a breakdown, but I haven't. I've made it all the way through without completely losing my mind. And part of the reason for not breaking down is because of listening and watching to some of your TikTok videos and a couple other creators who make me laugh. But I watched a bunch of your funny stuff and watched some of your videos where you reminisce about like the mall and things like that. And it distracted my mind long enough to where I've gotten through the day and I've been able to handle it. So I've been close to breaking down in tears, including right now. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing laughter into our lives, because you never know when somebody might need that laughter. And you never know when somebody might be helped with that funny thing you said. So I just wanted to express my gratitude for that. My daughter was born in 1995, so when I was 19. So I grew up, and most of my teenage years were late 80s, early 90s. So I can really relate with a lot of what you said. And in honor of my daughter, I wanted to recite a funny hand clapping rhyme that we used to do a hand clapping game and say this rhyme because it was her favorite. And okay, it goes like this. I went downtown to see Charlie Brown. He gave me a nickel to buy me a pickle. The pickle was sour. He gave me a flower. The flower was dead, and this is what he said. Hot dog, baby, chicken and gravy. Saw an old lady with a bald-headed baby. Ooh, I want a piece of pie. Pie too sweet. I want a piece of meat. Meat too tough. I want to ride a bus. Bus too full. I want to ride a bull. Bull too fat. I want my money back, Jack. That used to make her laugh so hard when she was little. And so I wanted to share it with you and whoever may hear this message. And maybe you can get a laugh out of it. And one more. It was a little song that we used to sing. And, well, that I used to sing to her, and she thought was just hilarious. So, oh, I wish I was a little bar of soap. Oh, I wish I was a little bar of soap. I go slippy and a slidey over everybody tiny. Oh, I wish I was a little bar of soap. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. And thank you again for bringing laughter to my life, especially at times like this when I needed it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Hold your loved ones tight. Thanks for hanging out with me this week, you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, you can go to my website, kevinjamesthornton.com, and leave me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great week.
It was the 90s. It was the 90s.